Hey, well, I'm going to try to see if I can explain a few things here. We're going to look back over. Um, it's been a day or two, I guess, since I did anything, and I'm actually working at the library where I can get decent Wi-Fi. You can see that this is all loose, right? This is all layers and layers of skin. We've been through that, right? If you looked at the others, this is nothing. This is all loose. This stuff is coming out from under my skin when I break this loose. Let's see, I hadn't really thought what I want to talk about. Just see, you'll see if you look at the other most recent video that this is just a couple of days later, and you'll see how it's changed. A lot of loose stuff will be gone. I haven't tried to pick anything off because I kind of want you to understand that this skin on the front comes up over, and then the nail material forms. It's loose. I mean, it's comes out liquid, and it forms an overnail. If I leave that, I've been telling people if you pick something out like this and then you leave it alone, and you just take a shower and you scrub and whatever, that the nails will start to look better and better. So if you look at the nails, pictures of the nails before, and they were extremely rough, they're already starting to kind of smooth out. It's not dramatic. You would have to leave it for a week or two. But you can see that all of this is dead skin. And what's going to happen here, all of this is going to come off. And my nails are actually going to shift back. They've been racked out, nail after nail after nail, that forms over, and it forms out incrementally farther every time until you get these big honking nails. The same thing here. This is building up. This is all callus. This is all dead cuticle that's building up like a big rubber bumper on the front of my finger. And when it moves out, grows, if you want to call it that, it just gets more and more and more. The nail comes more and more and more, and it just sits on top of this flubber. So it's actually not attached to anything. And under here somewhere is the real nail bed. It might get, I must be getting close to it, I'm scaling this off. But every time I scale this off, I just picked some stuff off this morning, right here. And what's going to happen is these side pieces are going to square up. When these nails come back to their right dimension, the sides are going to be straight. They're going to be like that. All of that side nail, however much of it is fake, is going to come off. And like I said in one of my other videos, I think that my nail bed is actually going to be hard. It's going to be smaller than I really expected to be. I think it's frozen there since I was 5 years old. I don't think it's grown. So I think my nails are going to be pretty small starting out. And I have to scale these off nonetheless because the nail bed wants to be, or the nail wants to conform to the nail bed, and it's not round. It's not supposed to be oval. These edges are supposed to be parallel on the sides. And I will be able to pick this out and split it, and it will just be like splitting a piece of wood. It's going to want to come back there and there. All of this side stuff is going to come off. All of this wing out. All of this winged out stuff on the side is going to go away. The magnification is so high I'm having a hard time finding my right place. But this is going to be squared here. This is all just junk. It's going to come out. Let's see if I can do this without being idiotic about it. But I want you to see that that's just dead. You're going to have to, it all has to come out. All of this old cruddy stuff. It has to go away. And you see that what's happened is this is still more cuticle, and it's still under this nail. It runs right up under it. So all of this is leaked, formed out over the cuticle. It's just not supposed to be this, and actually all of this bumper is all dead. These are layers and layers and layers and layers of skin, very thin, microscopic skin. But you see it's starting to now break back inside here. But that is still, that's just more and more and more. Look, you see? It's just going to peel another layer, and it's going to peel another layer, and it's going to peel another layer. It's going to seem endless, right? And like I was saying, I said in one of the other, there's maybe one I haven't posted up yet, but this stuff it's just piles up forever, and it's all going to have to go away. But you'll keep picking it out and picking it out and picking it out. And this is all going to have to go away. More and more and more of this stuff that's up. Look at that. That's just dead cells. And they run all the way back up here. There's no telling how much is left and how far it goes up my arm. How far up my arm is stuffed with stuff that is actually toxic waste. But this is all going to peel off, because we still haven't gotten to we got to be getting close to the nail bed. Say it's right there. But if you remember when you were biting your nails when you were young, you remember getting a hold of a piece of it and just peeling the whole thing across, and it was just real thin, but it could be real wide too. And you could not peel it off like that if it was attached to anything. It was already over nail. And the reason was you'd already bitten this back all the way back here somewhere. And then this cuticle skin formed all the way up under here. And then this comes out wet, It just like forms of like floor wax. And it comes out over, and it forms the nail over, and it will form the nail right over the skin. And then it'll do again. You'll do it over and over and over, so it's interleaved on the front edge. All of this will come out. You can see it now. Let's see if I can. And when I was doing it before, and it was so tight and all, I would get a hold of it with a forceps, and that would just pick out. I would grab out with the forceps right there. You grab that, and it would just pull out in a string, because that's the way it forms. It's like the hem of your trousers. It runs all the way around. And I didn't realize that it runs all the way around here and all the way back. You won't pull it all out like that. But I'd pull that from there and have pull all the way out around over to here. Normally it'll break up here. And I don't have any of my old videos, but what used to happen is it used to break up here. I'd pull it this way up to here, and I'd pick from this side, and I would get under. See, that's just not, the skin runs up under here, and I can take this and turn it this way at a certain point and just pick that off. Pick off that side nail, and then it's going to want to come back straighter and straighter. But still, all of this is just built out over flubber. It's not a real. And it's just like if you ever had callus material on your foot and you got it got all hot and gooey in the shower, And but if you try to peel it back, sometimes it'll run deep, and you'll have to stop. You'll have to cut it because it'll start to want to run into living tissue. But the callus is callus. It needs to come off, and you've got that same situation here. And it's just because it's flexible and pink that it's fooling you, But you can see as it starts to dry up that it's not really alive. It's not really living skin. So all of this was much more dramatic earlier on, because I would just pull out big honking, long, big strips, and I'd get a hold of it, and it would pull all the way out from under here, and they would leave a big void down there. But there's actually, because the skin is under the nail and the nail is so big and it's not on the nail bed, you could grab a hold of that skin and it would actually pull it out from under the nail, and it would pull it up and around like if you were pulling out a string out of if you were putting in a windshield or something. You know how they put the string in the gasket and then you pull it from one side? Well, you'd pull that from underneath, you'd pull it all the way around there, and it would pull, and that would deserve enough stuff without get a bloody ring all the way around there. This is where some kind of a blood material is mixed with the the wet material that comes out that wants to form nail when it hits the air. And it's made a kind of a composite. It's just a stain. The blood has stained the liquid nail material that just comes out like a lacquer coat or something like that. So that's the way these things build up. This is getting close here, I think. You know, we're getting close to something that wants to be a little bit tender. You know, the nail bed's under there somewhere, but we haven't found it yet. And when we do, though, see, this is starting to pull a little bit, you know. But I've been doing this for 2 years, and I'm telling you, I've pulled a lot of stuff. I pulled a lot of skin off just like that, and I've started to see that it's just another layer, and another layer, and another layer, and another layer. Because in the beginning, I thought the nail was just going to break loose, and it was just going to travel off. No, that's not what happens. It's 100 nails stacked up. They're just so thin you don't realize it. So what happens is you turn it loose. I'm going to pick this loose. Then this will move out like that far. And there'll be a void there a little bit, and you'll see that this is dipped down at the back, and then it's all rumply here. And it just moves out a little bit. And then this nail, this top nail, it'll just break up, okay? And then there'll be more junk underneath it and more skin. And when all of this is cleared off, then this next layer down here is going to dry up and it's going to flake off too. And it's almost endless. But I think at first, you know, the nail doesn't form unless it's exposed to the air. What I did was I dropped oven cleaner on my thumbnail, right over here, and a huge piece of dead skin. It was just a giant chip of hard, dry, dead skin, and it just popped out. And there was no nail under it. Not really. You still have junk. But I said, wait a minute. You know, what's going on there? I really started, it's impossible to see. You see how small a nail is getting here. This whole nail is going to go away. I don't know if I'll have, you know, what it's going to take to get new nails. But this is just getting rid of old damage so that all of this skin that's underneath this is in pockets of skin underneath dead cell material that's underneath my skin. And this top skin, it's dead too. And it's flaking off. And when you hold it in a certain light, if it's in the morning light, you'll see that the skin is the wrong texture. You can tell it's dead. And it's when you get that light against it like that, and it'll start to look glazed. like it's a chemical burn or something, and it looks a little crazed and dried, and you'll realize then that it's not right. You know, this is all this. So much has come off, but this is all this skin just rolls up under here and over, and then the new nail this nail material will just form over it. So then the nail will be out here like that, and it'll be over all this skin, and it just grows more and more and more. And I'm just reversing the process now. But you can see look at some of these pictures of really bad damage on the internet, where people are going, what's up with this? And you'll start to see it. It's not transparently obvious. But these are just layers and layers and layers of really thin. I mean, skin is not that thick, right? So, but you can see all of that is dead. All of this. Wherever this nail bed starts, and I suspect it's right here, but it's still buried down in there, and it's submerged. Look at that, I managed to get it. So here we're getting back. I mean, see, this is the way it's taken, though, to get back to base. To get back to base. So now I'm down here where it's so close to the nail bed that I'm actually better off just picking it loose from this so it doesn't get stuck. And that will let this stuff just move out. And it's like this. It's like that. And when I take a shower, this is going to soften up because it's not real. It hasn't formed properly anyway to begin with. And it will just it'll get softer and flexible, rubbery. If I had fingernails, I could scrub it like that and just peel it off after a shower. But as it is, I've just been scrubbing it off with a nail brush. But you can see this is all just layers and layers and layers of overnail, right? It's getting a little dicey down here because we're getting back so close to the nail bed. But I'm talking, if you look at that first video where I went, it's very difficult. If I had two phones, two cameras working, it would be better. But I did have pictures that were on my iMac on the desktop. And it just shows how huge my nails were. And I thought they were great. You know, I didn't think I had a problem. I said, oh boy, I quit, I quit biting my fingernails and now they're just magically going to fix themselves. No. When you quit biting your fingernails, that just made some more junk, put out some more plastic material on top that formed a nail over all this damage. I swear to God, I have not been putting this stuff on here for you to look at. It's been there the whole time. And if you look at those pictures on the iMac that I took off the screen just by taking the camera in there and shooting it right off, pulling it up off the gallery and just shooting it right off the gallery. These big, huge nails, they came all the way out here. And they were all the way out here, you know? They were way out in front like that and over here on the side. It's unbelievable. And they were ovaled out. And some of them were arched up. You know, they came out like talons. And then, because this is unsupported, these things will just wrap. You'll see the same thing on your toenails. If your toenails just roll right down, it's not because it's bumping into your shoe, all right? It's just curling down around because it's unsupported. I wondered why my nails got out there that far and just kind of nosedived down. I didn't understand what was going on. But you can cut that, and you know that that's overextended. Is you okay? Yeah. You know that that's overextended. And you can take your toenail clippers and you can clip it all the way back to there. And you probably should. And then you'll see that that'll obviously look wrong. You're just letting that stuff sit out there because it looks like nail. And you think you can dress it up a little bit. But all of this stuff on the front, this whole, you can start to see it separate right there. You know, right there. That is all a flubber. Some of these guys, I saw this guy on the internet and he pulled the whole thing down. And he was sitting there, had pulled it down, and the real skin was all the way back up under here. You know, he pulled off like a 3/16 of an inch of it and just peeled it all down in a piece. And it was like you dipped your hands in latex and it had firmed up, and then you came back and you peeled the whole plastic piece off. But you can see that's wrong. And what's going on is this wants to come down like this in the corner, and this corner will square up, and then it'll come straight out here. This is actually all rolled up in front. That's because this is all really dead. So the whole and I'm starting to see, you see, this is just wrong. This is all wrong, and this is getting dimply because all of this material is now starting to come out. all of this is not how my fingers looked even a couple of weeks ago. This stuff is emptying out, and it's coming now down from up here, I think. I think there's more and more and more. I think it's been bottled up. You're talking 65 years. 65 years. I know that I was biting my fingernails when I was 5. I remember when my nails looked like this when I was a kid. Okay? And they just just shot out some more, because the stuff's always wanting to come out. There's always nail material there to use to make a cover nail. And it doesn't get rid of the damage. It just covers it up. The other thing you won't realize is that when I was a kid, I was really rowdy. And I would get these huge honking scabs, and the scabs would break. And they would be all crystalline. That's exactly like this stuff, only it's not red because I'm not getting the blood in it. But that brown, you remember? You remember those scabs, the big scabs that you got when you fell down on your knee on the sidewalk? That got all crumbly? It never formed a real scab. It was just all crumbly. So it's the same as that stuff right there. You just have to, it's hard to explain, but you can start to see it. See, this is all just junk. This is all just junk, and I have no idea right now. But this one's, the nail might be back here. It's actually probably easier for me to try to explain it another way, because I think I can see it. I was told in one of these videos, I said, I think I'm just gonna take a pen and draw where the nail is supposed to be. Now look at this. See if I can get this. You see the nail? This nail is going to be all the way back here, right? And this is too far out in front. This is going to come off to there anyway, to the nail bed. You see what that's doing? This is all fake. And the deal is, this is the old one. Watch this. Let me get the other one. Try to guess which nail got damaged and just came off. The whole nail came off all at once, and it grew a whole new nail. Look at this. Which one do you think's old and which one do you think's new? You see the texture's different here. This is cleaner. And it was so funny, because at the time I did that damage, I said, gee, it's a shame you just can't lose your nails, can start over. At the time, I had no idea. I really had no idea.
You gotta put your sausage.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm taking a video. It's about nail damage. But anyway, look at that. This is all, that's just damaged. And that's just sticking out there. That's not, it's gonna come all the way back to there. All the way back to here. And this is all the way, the nail is going to be all the way back here. So the nail is basically going to shift. It's just visual. It's going to shift all the way back here. This is other damage from where the nail actually, that my toenail actually was turned over like that. You'll see that, when that's comes from your shoes. The guard just told me I can't do this. But you see, that looks good, but the nail is actually supposed to be all the way back here. The back of the nail's supposed to be there, and this is not supposed to be there, and all of this is flubber. Flubber, just like Smeagol. That looks good, but all of this comes off. And when all of that, if I can clip that off with a clipper, then what's all this stuff out here? It's all just dead skin. So, and you see how much bigger it is on the tip. It's supposed to be much thinner. You need to start paying attention. You don't see the damage. Dude. The guard. The guard's freaking out. You can't undress in the library. Oh, well. Everybody else does. So look, guys, And when you look at your toenails when you're in the shower, because you don't have this much buildup on your toes, and this will be real thin. This is still real thick. All of that buildup there. See, that all wants to go away, all that puffiness. But on your toes, that's only a couple of layers thick. That's why I say you can take that with a scrub brush and scrub off those top couple of layers, and your nails are going to start to recede back to there. That's the way it's going to look. And the more skin you take off, the nail is going to form farther back. You don't know where the nail bed is, but wherever the nail bed is back here, wherever it starts, that's where your nail is supposed to start. And it's not supposed to be stuck way out here. If you can if your nails are out to here, and you can get under it and clip it in one go all the way back to here, it means that wasn't supposed to be there anyway. This is supposed to be the front of your nail, at the front of your nail bed. And anything in front of that is really probably just callus. So under here, and then if you looked at on the side, see it's a nail, and a nail, and a nail, and a nail, and a nail, because it shifts. When this callus material builds up here, it starts back here at the end of the nail bed, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and it starts to cover the back of the nail bed. And it racks out, and the nails rack out. As they build up, they go 1, 2, 3, 4, and they stick out farther and farther and farther and farther in front. So actually what it is, it's like a deck of cards that you stood there and just racked them forward. So it's actually, your nails are actually being like that. You have to start paying attention. It's hard to see, but you can see it. I'm seeing this stuff on the bus. You know, I'm seeing people who don't have a single clue that all of this stuff is dead skin. All of that brown cast stuff, all of this dimpling under here, it wasn't visible. But my fingers are dramatically thinner right now than they were even 2 weeks ago. But they're thinner on the front than they are back here. And if I punch out a big, if a bunch of this stuff comes out, a bunch more is just going to travel down and fill this void up. And then I'll have to do it again. I'll have to break this loose. Eventually I'll have a nail, and there won't be any dead skin on it, and I'll have a living cuticle, and that'll be all that's there. It'll just be that one living cuticle. And then you can push it back with your little wooden stick and keep it broken loose, and the nail will move out every day the way it's supposed to. But most people have nails that are frozen, and all of this garbage is jacking up in the back. I think I said to somebody, it was on this side, so it's dumping out on both sides. These are all my little piggies. They're just all crammed full of callus. And I could take my finger and punch there and push all the skin over there, and then punch it back here and hit a void here, and that would all fill up over here.
That's interesting. I love skeletons. Check it out.
Yeah,
Skeletons.
Oh, neat. I'm working, hon.
Have a good day.
Thank you. So, but you see, that's junk, right? And this little nail, it's going to all go away. I thought maybe I had a hope that I would, like I said, I thought these nails were going to break loose. They were just going to travel out and they were going to be gone, and that's it. But that's not what's happening. I'm having to reverse the process and take off nail by nail by nail by nail. I break this one loose, this top nail. I break it loose from the cuticle. It moves out a little bit. Some of this junk comes out on it. I scrub it off. The skin starts to dry up. I pick it out. Just start over and over and over again. So 1, 2, and you see we haven't even gotten down under the skin yet. So this is waiting. It's going to come down there. If all this dead skin came off of the front of my finger, all the way around, then you would see that just stacks of nail. Just a stack of nails. Not one nail, but dozens of nails all stacked up. And they can rack forward, like that. Here. I'm telling you that this was actually, the skin level was way up here. It actually went from the knuckle, it went up like that. And these nails were all the way up here. It's going to freak you out when you realize what's actually going on. So all of this has to get picked out. You just pretty much do this. You do it all the time until you get rid of it. But this has been 2 years. I've been picking out layers and layers and layers of cuticle like that. You see? That's just all dead skin. It's more dramatic. If I could get my old videos off my iPhone, and I had it clamped, and I had the camera clamped, and I could just work with my tools, and you could see them, just peeling it off and peeling it off, peeling it off. But this is still, there's tons of it. But I'd get under here, like this. This is getting tender now. But I used to, the nail was so big. I'd just get the nail, I'd get the knife up under there, and I'd pull a big hunk of it out. And then it would be sitting there in air, and it was obvious. It was obvious. So, and this is still flat. This nail is supposed to come around like a cylinder and drop straight down on the sides. If you look at these girls that have got beautiful nails, transparent nails, their nails are actually shaped like that. They go straight up and over and right back down. Right? And then all the skin is in here. It's not out here on the outside of the nail, and it's not over here on the outside of the nail. And the nail is damn sure not punched down in there like an M&M and cookie dough. You see these girls that have got these little tiny nails and in this big pad of flubber, they don't even know what's going on. And the deal is that this has got to be toxic to the body in some way. This is the waste. This is waste you're supposed to be getting rid of. And it's been clogging up my system for 60 years. And I had no clue. No clue. But all of this is dead. You could see it. I don't want to hurt myself. I'm trying to work this is not ideal. But normally when I do this at home, I have it set up on a clamp. I have the camera on a clamp, and I can work better. But you don't really see that's actually just callus. All of it. I just stuck myself pretty good. You will stick yourself, That's why I use a dull. I've had this exact knife 20 years, and I've never put a new blade in it. I'm a klutz. I quit carrying razor knives at work. Everybody carries razor knives in the convention business, and I work stage too. But I switched it out in my pouch. I use scissors. Do myself less damage that way. But this will just dry up. You pick off this, and the next layer will start to dry. It won't get ahead of it. You have to do it layer by layer, unless you find a way to chemical strip it. But you can see now that will start to reveal a better profile. That will clip off, right there. And then you'll see that this is just more and more cuticle. Sometimes it'll look like you've gotten down to it, but this will come off, That's a side nail. Kinda. It's just any place you see this curve go under nail, not right. Oh, we got flies. Isn't that nice? I think the mosquitoes followed me out here from Georgia. I'm not happy about it. One of the big draws was not having to deal with mosquitoes. Look at this. In case you weren't believing me. I got a hunk of it there, didn't I? And that's all. What are the odds that I would be able to do that without bleeding myself, if that was real? What do you think? I cut myself a bunch in my working line. Yeah. And when you're first getting started, you'll be able to take this and pull down on here, and you'll break that crease, and then you'll be able to get in there like that and pick it out like that. And when there's tons and tons of buildup, you'll pick out that crescent. That'll dry up in that until this comes back straight. Your nail's not in the right shape. So anytime that's spilled out like that, it means that the skin is built up and up and up and up and up, and the nail is coming higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. And the new nail, every time, it will start to spin out and get wider and wider and wider. And that's why your nails grow and become oval instead of straight on the sides. This is supposed to be like that, and over here it's supposed to be like that. And anything outside of wherever that natural nail bed is not supposed to be there. But you see, that's just another layer. Tomorrow there'll be another, it'll be drying up a little bit. I'll be able to peel another layer and another layer. It's not like you can't cut yourself. But this is basically just dead skin. You see? So, same thing here. This is going to come back here if I have to get under there and pick it up. But you see that the skin is goes under here. You know why? You got to learn to see it. You don't see what it is. That's the deal. So, I'll stab myself if I'm not careful in that corner. And it's hard to brace freehanding it like this. Okay, that's nail. But you'll fool yourself when you're doing it. You'll go, wait, have I got nail or have I got cuticle? And the answer is it's all the same stuff. It just depends on how hard it is. It's all skin or dead skin or cuticle skin. And the nail is just a harder version of the same material. So this will all come out. I'm not doing a good job of this, but you can see how crusty that is. Am I bothering you, dude? Am I bothering you? All right. I hate to be a pest. I'm a southerner. I don't even have enough fingernail or whatever to pinch stuff. I have to use the tool. I'm going to get cards made up where I can just hand it to somebody on the bus without getting hit. You know what I mean? I'm not going to try saying, hey, man, you got a lot of crap on your hands. You need to deal with it. But I'm thinking about just getting cards made up that say severely bitten nails. Look it up on YouTube. Because that, you see, it's just, I'm not doing a good job here, but this peels out, you know, and you can tell. You can tell that it's just coming out in a chunk and that it's separate. It's separate from anything else. It's not like I'm cutting anything out. I'm just pulling it out like a string. See? And you'll see the layers. You'll start to see the layers. It'll be discouraging because in the beginning you think you're going to make a lot more dramatic progress than you are. It took 65 years to do this damage, and it's taken me 2 years to reverse it to here. And believe me, when I started, I didn't think I was going to be picking at my fingers for 2 years. I thought it was going to be but, you know, I thought when I quit biting my fingernails, that was the end of it. It was not the end of it. It was the beginning of it. It was the beginning of the realization of all the damage I'd done. But this is a kind of an overnail, a side nail. It'll all come off. It wants to come off back to there. But you don't want to stab yourself doing it, right? And it can be hard. I've got a pair of dikes, but you can't really get under there. I mean, you got to get the bottom edge underneath, and then you got to clip down on it. I found it better to pick up on it, like that. Get under there and do that. And then you'll freak yourself out when you get a nice chunk that just pops out and reveals the natural line. And then you'll start to see. You'll say, it's like when you're digging or something, and you're digging and there's been there before, and you're saying, and all of a sudden it falls out, and you go, oh, that's the edge of the trench, or that's the, or you hit something and it splits. It splits along a fault line, and you go, oh, somebody's been here before. See, that'll break. That's now breaking just away from the nail. That's just all laminated skin, laminated in there. It's when you realize that these nails are sitting on top of all this flubber, and they're not really attached, and that that the nail is really dramatically larger than it's supposed to be. Then you'll start to realize what's going on. That's the nail I'm picking out, not cuticle skin, probably. You never know. But if it's coming up from behind, like that is now, that's cuticle. Look at that. Don't freak out. That's the skin, but it's pulling away, and it hasn't been pulled away in 30, 40, 50 years, whatever. It's all been glued in there. I'm sorry, I'm actually a photographer. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. I mean, I can do tabletop setups and stuff. But I actually gave away my tent, and all that. I don't really do tabletops and setups and stuff. I'm a street photographer. I never even needed flash. I never used a flash. Now the camera on the phone is as good as my Nikon ever was, and I don't have to pay every time I run film through it. There's no film to run through it, and it's all easier. All the graphic arts and everything. It's just dreamy. Used to be you couldn't even do the work you wanted to do because you did not have access to the equipment. The same as film. You can make an actual good movie on your phone now. This is what we started Image, Film, and Video in Atlanta to do, to accumulate the kind of gear that you could not get because it was all scaled up for 35 millimeter. That means the cameras were all 35 millimeter. You had a Chapman crane to mount a 35 millimeter camera on that was bigger than you are. I've used dollies they were as big as the old push carts that they used on the railroad. It took 6 people to get off of the side rail and onto the main line. When I was a kid, they had dollies like we use in film in little houses on the side of the railroad tracks, and there'd be like 6 feet of track that would run straight out to the railroad, to the main line, and then they would unlock the little thing, and they would roll the push cart out right to the edge and then they would everybody get around it, and then you've just got to pick it up and turn it 90. You got no help on that. You see what that is, right? This is getting close. It's hard for me to pick at it now without it being a little tender. But you see what? That's just all junk. It's got to go. We'll see how long the guard will go before he decides he's had enough. I'm working on high speed. It'd be nice if I could get this set up where I could do something decent. But where you really see it is when you get it in good light. I was riding on the bus this morning and I could see the texture of the skin was all wrong, all back here. It looks glazed. You see people that look like they've got chemical burns on their hands or stuff, and that's what this is. It's just dead skin. It's dead on top. This is all dead. If I were scrubbing this with a loofah or something, it would be going away like sunburn. It'd just be flaking up. But you wouldn't really notice it. And then underneath is all these pockets of chicken fat. And it's just coming out. And used to work the show in Atlanta. They called it chicken pluckers. And when the exhibitors would leave, the chicken fat is an additive in your food. If you ever open a can of Campbell's soup, chicken soup, without shaking it, it'll be half liquid chicken fat. That's when I stopped eating the stuff. I realized what they were doing. It's not the fat from the chicken it's not all in. It's a commercial product. They buy the chicken fat and put it in. So when the exhibitors would leave, they would leave tables full of bags of chicken fat, and it's white. It's white fat, and it's clumpy. What's it like? Well, it's like those old pears that were clumpy they would come apart like a pomegranate, and they would make that sucking sound when you pulled them apart. I haven't seen pears like that since I was a kid in South Georgia. They were the best. But this skin stuff is remarkably similar. And so they would leave the bags of chicken fat. They don't take them with them. They're trying to sell them. It's just a salesman sample. And you go by and you stick one of those bags and just like that, and it'll erupt. When it gets here, and the chicken fat will just start to just spill out. Just spill out on the floor. It's really ugly. But that's what I've got under here. That's under my skin. It's basically the same thing. And this is dramatically thinner. And back here, I'm thinking this will probably, look at all that under there. I'm going to I've got one of those seam rollers that's got a wooden roller on it, a wallpaper roller or something. I'm going to start rolling this stuff and see if I can get it. But this is the other thing. When this stuff starts to move around, it's starting to itch like crazy under the skin. And that's why this has created so much irritation in your life. If you ever sit and do stuff like this, that's what it is, I think. You're just, you've got this irritation, you've got all this damage, it's under the skin. This is just massive amounts of dead skin and junk, and it's highly uncomfortable, and it's all subliminal. For the most part, you don't realize what's going on. So this is a little tutorial. You see this is going to break loose. Now this will move out, and this is just going to look like hell, right? And then in a couple of days, all this junk will scrub off. I'll get in the hot shower, and this will just turn gooey. It'll get rubbery, and I'll scrub it with this plastic, stiff bristle brush or something. All of this loose scale will come off, and then it'll look like that in a couple of days. And we start over. We dig out the next one. This is all just repetitive, and it's very tedious, guys. I'm not happy about it. I would like to get on and print I have 50 years worth of analog negatives that I would like to print before I die. My dad, the way your life works, my dad, when he was a kid, he spent all his money on himself. So he had a lot of hobbies, and he had a lot of junk. He had guns, he had this, he had that. Well, then you get married. So we got lucky in a way because we went to occupied Germany. So my dad could keep it up for a while. He had a Mercedes 300. He had a Hollywood Hudson here, burgundy convertible. That was my parents' first car. It was a hot car, buddy. It was a good-looking car. And but over there, we bought in Germany. We bought a Mercedes 300. Had a sunroof, and it looked like a limo from the 30s. They hadn't changed the style since before the war. It was I think it was a 52. This, I think my dad said it was the last hand-built Mercedes, which means it was a rattle trap, actually. Industrialization is, they were putting them together out of whatever they could get, I think. It wasn't the best car we ever owned mechanically, I'll put it that way. But it sure did look good. And but he also they had the radios with the book-matched wood veneers. My dad had one of those. He loved music. And he bought a Voigtlander. He had worked as a newspaper photographer even when he was in high school. And I got pictures of his photo by Sib. He had his little logo and everything. And he loved photography, but he never did it anymore after we left Germany. But I've got like probably 26 boxes of slides. And I don't know if they're Kodak. It's probably German. If you've ever seen German newsreel films, they'll freak you out because they're in color, and ours were all in black and white. Americans' idea of World War II is all framed in black and white photography. You see those the planes diving on the ships and whatever, and exploding and whatever. All of those newsreel films from Germany are in color. It's a whole different world in color, guys. I went to the Goethe Institute, and they had newsreel films that they had taken when they went into Poland. And there are dead horses and caissons and stuff piled along the roads, and those dead horses are all in color. They're not black and white. It's a whole different thing to look at. And I've got all my dad's. He took pictures everywhere we went in Germany. He had one of those clunky Voigtlander cameras, but they were like Zeiss. And the optics were fabulous, and he was a good photographer. And so I have got 26, and when we would get back from trips and stuff, he would sort all his sides. Look at this. That's all scale. That'll come out. And you see how the way it's interleaved with the skin. Look at that. See, that's coming off there on that edge. So we had the daylight screen and everything, and he'd have it all sorted out, and he'd have his side trays. And but that was like a one-shot deal, and then he put them up. I don't remember actually. I remember going to the places. I don't remember looking at the pictures all that much. So I remember more seeing him sitting there setting the gear up and all of that, pulling the screen down. But nobody's really interested in looking at your vacation pictures except you. And but Dad, he was a great photographer. He had a really good eye, a really good composition, and since then I've never seen any of his pictures. But I tell you some of the things I remember that he took pictures of, and that would be our Supreme Allied headquarters, with all of the sergeants sitting at the desks in front of the entrances to the offices all the way down the hall. And on the other side of the hall, all of the captured German battle standards leaned up against the wall. Incredible stuff. And I've not even thought about it until recently, that's what's in those boxes. And I would a hell of a lot rather be seeing that stuff get printed up than to be sitting here picking on my damn fingers. This is for you. This is because I know that your life, if you get on this, you're 20, you could already have 10 or 15 years worth of damage on your fingers. You don't want to carry it around for another 40 years before you get serious about it. Because this is a source of disease. All of this junk will come off. I have to get down here and clean up the floor. It's going to be dumping dead skin all over the place. You know, if you ever bit your fingernails, I got some bad news for you, and I got some good news for you. The good news is you can do something about it. The bad news, it's not going to be a quick fix, not unless you find some surgeon or somebody who actually knows what he's doing. I was saying in one of the other videos, it depends on how swollen your fingers are. I didn't think about this the other day, but you know, they just stick a hose up in you and they make an incision and they get in there and they suck all that cellulite out of people now. And they'll, just like that bag of chicken fat, they'll pull out 20 pounds of cellulite. It's possible, I suppose, you could get under the skin and take all of this out in a go. But this is freaky to me because this is not, I mean, this was, you know, the profile of my hand was trying to focus on the floor. But you can see how this is collapsing. My finger was not all dimpled like that and with these voids. All of this was stuffed full of stuff. Everything looked round and plump. Guys, I'm telling you, it's just, you know, you need to fix it. If you can start to see the damage, that's the key. Because you've been looking at it for years and you don't even know. You never noticed it before, did you? You gotta just start paying attention. And you can see now I'm pulling that back on the nail bed. Look at that. You see that? Break it loose. This will move out a little bit maybe. If not, if it's broken loose, then maybe some of this crap will just come on out. And that is just, that's a dead top layer, right? There you go. I know you don't, I say it over and over and over because I understand that you can't see it, you know. When I got back, I told myself all kinds of stories. You know, I knew I was biting my fingernails when I was a kid. I didn't like it. I tried to do something about it. I'd go up to the little variety store where you get stuff like parchment copies of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and all that kind of junk. And I would buy the pepper sauce that you were supposed to put on your fingers to keep you from biting your fingernails. I would spend my money on that. And I just got used to the pepper sauce. You know how you do. It's like the stop smoking stuff. You do that and then you smoke the cigarettes on top of it. So it was no good. But I had told myself that this was because of caffeine. In Germany, they have pure food and drug laws. They don't add caffeine to everything like we do over here. So, and they don't do branding like we do over here. So we would get our Pfennigs together and we would go across the street from the dependent housing area into the regular German neighborhood where we weren't supposed to be. And we would buy Sugarwasser, right? But it didn't have caffeine in it. So I kind of told myself that all of this was kind of a nervous habit thing that came from biting my fingernails, was all from stuff like that. And somehow I managed to skip the loop and not put together that I do, and go, well, why did you stop biting your fingernails when you came back from Germany? You know, what's changed? It's just bizarre. It's the logic, the way the mind works. You know, you think you know what's going on, and you don't actually know what's going on. I was telling myself the wrong story about my nails. So I said, when I get back over here, you know, and now caffeine is in everything, and that's when I said that's when I started biting my fingernails. That's when I started doing caffeine. So I thought part of my answer would be to stop doing caffeine. I did get off caffeine. It's insidious stuff. I would switch from coffee to Coca-Cola and back and not realize that I was doing a replacement thing. But actually it didn't have anything to do with it because I had actually started biting my fingernails when I was 5, not when I was 8, when I came back. So it didn't really have anything to do with caffeine at all. I was biting my fingernails because I was an unhappy little boy. I remember I had the original I Can Claim Waco, so I pretty much remember. It was pretty obvious to my mother I wasn't coming out. I'm surprised I don't have scars on my fingers from where I latched onto the bed spring. She'd have a hold of my feet. She'd be trying to drag me out from under the bed. They were like, "We ain't coming out." I'd be under there with the dog. Like, "We ain't coming out." I knew it wasn't going to be any better, what I mean? I say, "I'll just as soon stay under here if you don't mind." And, "Well, if you do mind, I ain't turning loose." So you're just going to have to pull harder. Oh, well, the joys of crazy mothers, I mean. You love the mother you got. You'd rather do anything. If you're a kid, you'd rather die than not be with your mother. No matter how bad, it is. But I probably wouldn't have lived through my childhood if my if my grandmother had not taken me away from my mother and put me with my great-grandmother. My mother told me 6 months before she died, she was 83 when she died, she told me 6 months before she died that she tried to kill me when I was a baby, when I was 3. And they were standing there, and she tried to dash my brains out. And she said, Granny took you and went one way, and my mother took me and went the other way. And I didn't see her again until we deployed to Germany. And when we deployed to Germany is when I started biting my fingernails. I didn't bite my fingernails when I was with my granny. We had pretty much had a blast. It was all for the best, in an odd sort of way. My mother told me, she said, you gave her something to live for. She was dead by the time I got back from Germany. I never saw her again. I have a picture of me sitting on my grandmother's sofa with my granny, and it was when I was getting ready to hit the road to New York to take the boat. We sailed to Germany. And when I was sitting there, I was so happy that I was going to be back with my mother again. And I didn't realize I would never see my great-grandmother again. But while she's sitting there holding my hand, she realized that she would never see me again. It's a very sad thing. And all of this comes from that. There's so much that goes on in your life that you don't even know. Cause and effect. You think you have a rational mind and you can figure things out. Surprise, surprise. The rational mind is a trap. In a lot of ways, it's a process. That's what people don't realize. The rational mind does not guarantee you the correct answer. So your faith in the rational mind is a little bit bogus. It's like the scientific method. You start with 3 possibilities, and they're all logical. But only one of them's right, or maybe none of them's right. It's a process. It's not a destination. You can't be overly tripped on, your ability to figure things out. You see what's going on there? It's separating. You see that skin is separating? I know you don't think I know what I'm doing, but I've been doing this a while now, and I think I've turned the corner on it in an odd sort of way. One of the things, this is a piece of advice for you. If you got somebody in your life that's in your close life as your family, and they tell you that they despise you, believe them. Do not say it's the alcohol talking. That's the person talking. And they're telling you the truth because they've loosened up their tongue. Listen to what they're saying and believe it. And get the hell away from them if you can. Because they'll kill you. Not to put too fine a point on it. It's getting really ugly. But the deal is, on this will look better in 2 days. It'll look all corrugated now, and all this will be rough, and it'll have all this junk. This will break up and come off, and it'll be corrugated. It'll look worse under there. Then it'll smooth out again. You see how that broke loose there? This is more, you know. I could take more and more and more of this flubber off. I'm trying to just do this, you know, to give you an idea. But you see, this should not be stuck down in the skin. The skin is all pushed up over the nail. It's not supposed to. This is just all junk, all of it. And all of this stuff is going to come out. And all of this dead skin under here, which I keep calling it skin, it's cell, dead cells. This is the dead waste that my body has been trying to get rid of since I was 5 years old. And it's all just stoppered up in here. And now it's spilling out from here where it's supposed to. Eventually I'll get there. And like I said, I think I've got 5-year-old nails bed under here that never had a chance to grow. So my fingernails may be real small. When I get new fingernails, they may start out being real small. Because these have been impacted. My nail bed has been impacted with all of this junk for 65 years. So this is important to health, I think. You see that? And that just pulled a big hunk up, but you see that profile is not only supposed to be down there, and all of this is swollen, extra dead skin buildup. See, ordinarily you would think you would not be able to just peel skin off like that. Unless it was already dead, sunburned skin, right? This is not normal. You see? But then see, I'll scrub, you know, I'll wash my hands, and scrub it, while this will just go away. And the rest of it will feather out. See, the thing, when this peels back from here, it feathers out, and you don't notice it. You think, oh, I washed the dishes or something, I've got dry skin, right? So what do? You put a little oil on it or something, and all of that dry stuff, it makes it invisible. It's like wetting something, and like wetting a rock. You know what I mean? It goes from being dull, and then you don't see it in the same way. But all of this stuff is bogus, every bit of it. And all of the damaged skin and nail has to come out. And I can't tell you exactly how all that works. All I can tell you is that you take one step at a time, and the only decision I made was that I was going to get the dead skin and nail off of my hands. And then we'll see where we go. We'll see where we go from there. But I'm very hopeful at this point. And I'm glad that I don't have 2 years of this to go through. You know, I'm not going to have to do over what I've already done. It's gone. Every bit of dead skin you get off your hand is gone. And it's a joy in itself. It's good. You're going to feel good about it. See how that's sticking out now, and you can tell. You pick it back inside the cuticle line, inside of here. But if it's not back far enough yet, it's the same thing's going to repeat. So more and more and more and more and more. It's a lot of damage here. Look at that. I know you don't know what I'm talking about. But you will if you start paying attention. You have to start paying attention to your own nail. And then when if I ever had get real nails, that, and they're formed right, that's when you go and you have to push this back what I'm telling people is, this is not doing you any good. Taking that little wooden stick and pushing it back, because you're pushing it back right here, but it's still stuck way back here. This ain't doing nothing. It's got to be unstuck completely. And all this junk has to travel off every day. The junk that's made, the dead cell material, is supposed to come out every day. It's never supposed to be jammed up in there like that. It's never supposed to be some stoppered up under the skin. And that's what you don't realize, that you've got bags of chicken fat up under your actual living skin. Let's see. All of that is dead skin. You can see it now, right? Well, try seeing it on your own hand. And then you can, like I said, you can go ahead and freak out then. Because you haven't been seeing it. But it's been there the whole time. I don't have enough fingers right now to pinch something like that. But you can see that. This will be even more dramatic when you haven't gotten this far, and there's much more big buildup, because you'll come in here like this and go like that, and you'll pop out a huge hunk, and you'll be able to take that and push it down and go, God, how far up under there does that go? You won't have a clue. It's a voyage of discovery. But you'll have some freaky moments for sure when it starts to reveal, as we say in theater, the big reveal. See, now that's picking that out. What you'll see is that this will sit in this crescent down there. This is just more and more and more dead callus in there. And you thought I didn't know what I was talking about, didn't you? There you go. That's going to bleed good. But it's dead skin. It doesn't matter. I'll wash my hands and that will not be bleeding. And if I were at home, I'd just go wash my hands. And just like any ordinary thing, it would be a done deal. And like scratching yourself on a bush when you're cutting the bushes, it would be a done deal in about 10 minutes. But I'm not going to do any more of that, because you're going to get brutally tired of having to do this. But you got to start, you know. I mean, if you want to get this damage, I know that this, it's going to sound crazy, I know that it's changing me in the way I'm calmer. I don't get strung out, you know. I don't bite people's heads off. It's not all just getting old, you know what I mean? I've known plenty of mean old people, you know. There's nothing magic about getting old. You can say, I went and visited my girlfriend's grandmother in the nursing home, and she was still blaming her parents for her, you know, things in her life that she wasn't happy about. She blamed her dad, blame mom, blame dad. That's something you need to get over too. It doesn't matter. And this is my attitude toward my crazy mother. Thank you, you know, because whatever else they did to you, even if they tried to kill you, in the first instance, they gave you the greatest gift that anybody could ever give another human being. They gave you the gift of life. And you would not have ever seen, I tell people this, you know, they're not mindful. I say, you know, people will be grousing at me or something. I said, have you ever seen a sunset that was really wonderful? Have you ever had a dog, you know, that licked your face? You would never have experienced any of that if it wasn't for your mother. And fortunately, I had a mother that would say tender things to me like, don't give me any of that I rock the cradle with the wrong foot crap. I would say, oh, yeah, okay, I won't. Yeah, she wouldn't sit still for it anyway. My mother was one of those people that say, I don't have a drinking problem. If you don't like it, if you don't like my drinking, it's your problem. And then she would go back to pull me out from under the bed. But it doesn't matter, because she also, if it hadn't been for my mother, I wouldn't have had a life or a dog. I would have never had a dog if it was up to my dad. My dad's mother gave his dog away. He was a wounded person, stuff like that. It's crazy, toxic crazy. People were worried about big things. It's the small ball. It's the small ball in your life that counts. All these people worrying about foreign policy and the environment, what the ocean temperature is going to be 20 years, 30 years after they're dead. They're like 15 now, right? They're worried about what the ocean temperature is going to be 135 years from now. That's ridiculous, dude. Worry about getting the yard mowed or something. And you won't have to do that. See, part of it is a time, What are you going to do with the time you get when the robot is mowing your yard that you used to have to mow the yard? Or are you just going to lay in the bed and smoke pot or what? Or are you going to use that time to do that movie, to write that book, to whatever, go to the moon? Some people utilize that. We're living in the best time in the history of the world for people. It took us 50,000 years. I was thinking about this the other day. That nothing changed. I've just been wondering, why are people acting so crazy? And I think, it's just like I'm looking for, like say environmental reasons. That's really interesting in itself, because some people think the reason the Roman emperors were so nuts and murdered people and did all those bizarre things was not because of their religion and this and that. They had money and they could get away with it. It's because rich people got their water delivered from the aqueduct in lead water pipes. And ordinary peons got it from the public fountain, which was stone. So they weren't poisoning themselves like the emperors were. It was the elites that were poisoning themselves with the technology. And that was true because we have no scientific knowledge. We've turned the corner on physical reality in the last century, between 1890 basically and now. And now we understand how things work. Oh, that's a big difference. Not getting, beating around. So the point of that is, Robert E. Lee was an engineer. He was in the 2nd U.S. Cavalry. He arrested James Brown at Harper's Ferry before the war and was part of the people that hung him. And then but before that, he had been responsible for doing the cisterns and the water catchment systems at Fort Pulaski, down on the Georgia coast. And if they had been bottled up in there for 6 months, say under siege, drinking water that had been collected from lead gutters all over the place, funneling back into a cistern that was lead sealed with lead solder, they would have all gone nutty as those guys on Bitten Island that had their boat crack up there and decided that they knew where they were. They were British. It was a scientific expedition. And they were stranded on that Baffin Island up there when the boat got frozen in the sea. And the boat started to break up, so they went out and they got all the stuff off the boat and they went into camp on Baffin Island. And after about 3 months, all they had to do was sit there and wait. They had sail makers, they had tools, they had food, they had everything. They had everything the British government could give them for a fully rigged scientific expedition that was supposed to be gone for 3 years or something. And they said, all we have to do is sit here, and they're going to say, we need to go look for those guys. Something's happened. Sooner or later, they would have taken the map, the charts, and they would have found them. But instead, after about 3 or 4 months in camp on Baffin Island, they just decided in the middle of the winter, in the middle of the howling winter, that they would take off and walk back to England. Isn't that something? So this perplexed the people in the naval, at the Admiralty at no end. They said, well, why did they do that? That's just dumb. But it wasn't dumb. They poisoned themselves. They went up there and they dug them up. They got permission from their relatives to dig them up. And they went up there. It's one of the neatest things I ever saw. It's a bunch of scientists chipping away at the permafrost with bleeding fingers. I do manual work. To me, that was just a real thrill, See those guys hacking away at frozen pebbles in shifts. They didn't take any flunkies with them. They were all scientists. So they went up there and they dug them up. And they started nosing around trying to figure out what was going on. Why they all died. All the people that left, they disappeared on the tundra somewhere, and their bodies have never been found. But 3 guys died in camp, and they buried them there on Baffin Island before they left. So they wanted to dig them up and do autopsies on them, see what the hell was going on. They also nosed around the camp to see what else they could figure out. And what they found was, they found the canned food. The cans that the canned food, these guys had the first canned food that they'd ever put in cans. And when they dug the cans up out of the dump, they had big honking seams of lead solder all around the big drippy seams of lead solder. And they had poisoned themselves. See, this was going on from the time of the Roman emperors up until, say, 1890. And right now today, we've all got these lead-soldered pipes. We've got, who knows, So you can't get a straight answer anyway on some of this stuff. I asked my dentist one time if I ought to think about replacing my fillings, my amalgams, because I'd heard about mercury and so forth, and she would not answer me. She just stood there and looked at me. And she wouldn't answer, and it was because she thought I was a plant. She thought that somebody had sent me in there to set her up and that they would sue her if she said anything like that. So my doctor basically wouldn't be honest with me because she was scared I was a rat. But, so it's not just the government planting transmitters and receivers in their fillings. It's, I'm trying to figure out why people are acting so damn crazy. Why people hop up and down and scream. Actually, I saw AOC in Congress the other day. She's throwing stuff around, And I go, and I'm a stagehand, so at some point I'd seen, how videos loop now. So I'd seen this thing that just played over and over and over while I was doing something else. And so I'd seen her go through her whole little routine, 7 times or something. And I finally started writing stage directions. And the last one was when she left the podium, I just wrote the stage directions. Don't forget to throw something. Because she just throws the papers at the end. You go, that's crazy. Why would anybody do that? People are doing a lot of crazy stuff, and I'm always looking for the small ball answer, not the big deal. You see what's going on there? I'm undigging those, unburying them, seeing how that will push right back up. There's so much flubber on the front of my hand that it will push right back up, and try to bury it again. It was much more dramatic in the beginning because I would peel out a huge thing and there would be like 1/8 of an inch high here. And I just peeled the skin right all around, and it looked like you'd just taken and cutting with a knife to the pit of like an avocado, and it would be standing up there, just this wall around here. It's just wild. And then this, I started to figure out this is the cuticle line, but I didn't realize they were all dead. But then this is the next cuticle line, and in the space of a day, this up here would just roll over because this is all compacted back. And it would just roll right down and glue itself right back down to the nail. I started to figure it out, but just over and over and over. Over and over and over. Over and over and over. But finally, you do start to get somewhere. It's pretty dramatic. And even before then, though, you have the consolation prize of knowing that every bit of dead material you get off your hand is actually gone. It's actually gone, and it's not going to come back. And when I get all this stuff done, when I get all this dead material off my hands, then I will have the luxury of just doing regular nail maintenance every day. But right now, this is still stuck. This is stuck 1/4, 3/8, 1/2 inch, God knows how far back. And you can get under there like that and start to break it up, and you will. When it's big and it's fat and it's all down here, you'll be able to just like pick it up, and then you'll be able to pull it loose and pull that big honking piece out. And it'll leave a gigantic void right there. And that'll freak you out. I've been lucky in a lot of ways in my life. And one of them was taking life string, because I tell you what, let's set this down in this like a counter group thing that was like Esalen or something from the 60s, from California. They had developed it. All these professions in my life have made real progress that were all considered kind of like voodoo 100 years ago or 70 years ago, like Freud, all of that. They've made real progress. And I was in this thing called LifeSpring, and it took me 3 or 4 days. I was sitting back there with my arms folded to realize those people knew something. They actually knew something. And they told us on the very first day, they said, we are going to engender a radical point of view shift. And what they did it too. It took them a week locking us up in a ballroom, but they did it for almost everybody in the whole group. And the radical point of view shift was, you stopped blaming other people for what your life looked like. And I mean to tell you, that's radical. They drew an outline of a rowboat on the floor in a ballroom with gaffer tape, and they put 6 chairs in it, 6 gray metal folding chairs. And every bit of this I found out later was even the color of the carpet in the room, and everything was figured out. So they had 85 people in there, and they had come into this thing thinking it was like a dress for success yuppie thing. And before this thing was over, these people were weeping. I saw guys that own their own companies, and they come in and they tell their stories, and I have my trophy wife and my big house and my company. And then they said them in this room, like 85 people. And they said, guys, we got some bad news. It says the ship is going down, and we only have room for 6 people in the lifeboat. They said, what we need you to do is explain to us why you should have one of those chairs. Let's start with you, Bill. the guy that owned his own company. I've seen CEOs of major corporations cry in a ballroom and beg for their lives. One of those folding chairs. It's like the Titanic. So make sure your life isn't the Titanic. Don't go down with the ship. Do something before then. I want you to know that I'm serious about this. I think this is a big deal. It's a big deal. I know it's a big deal. And I know that you think I'm crazy. It's okay. I've been crazy before. I'll live through it. Try to live through it without making everybody around you crazy. That's the deal. Just don't share the wealth. Containerize it. Now look, see what I'm doing there? I'm going to get up under there. And that just actually feels like a hard crust. So I'll either bleed myself or I'll get it out. If it doesn't come out today, it'll come out tomorrow. And every bit of it will reduce the pressure. The subliminal pressure, the actual physical pressure that has been under your skin for however long. You haven't been paying attention. It's getting tedious. You can only take so much at a time. But this is all good, even though it looks really horrible. And if you see this now, you think, oh, Jesus. But like I said, tomorrow, they'll all look on more like 3 days if I don't do any, more picking. That's when you'll know. When you see these nails start to try to go back and look normal, and you think, well, I could quit right now, but now you know all that crud's under there, and you can't quit. You'd like to. You wish there was some magic way that you could do it. I wish I could have the digital solution, but I'm afraid we're going to be locked into an analog solution here. We're not ready to do this with Mr. McCoy's gizmo. Dr. McCoy. Oh, all fixed. We fixed that. I'm afraid you're going to have to get the X-Acto knife. See? I don't even want to dig in that, but that's all the same. Sorry, not doing good on the autofocus. It's because it's auto-ranging. Used to drive, I had an electric continuity tester, and it would auto-range. The damn thing drove me nuts. And so it just slowed down. Because I couldn't trust it. It would jump all over the place. Like this autofocus. I was never sure I knew exactly what my voltage was. I used that little gizmo. It was good for a continuity test, though. It would make the beep. You get what you get. Look at that. Let's see, what is that? See? Yeah, it's going to tell you something, isn't it? But you don't know what. That's a void. It was all covered by dead skin. That could have been nail flake in there, no telling. You'll see stuff like that over and over. I don't really want to dig at it, but that's what you do. You dig out that corner, and you're going to find out that there's I forgot they don't like you to take your shoes off. That was pretty funny. Yeah, he was giving me the cop look, Ooh. You see all these people going out and harassing the police. I had taken an entirely other view of that. The first thing I want to do when I get stopped by the police is convince that guy that I am not the enemy. He does not have any reason at all to want to shoot me. I was working on the Olympics when we had the '96 Olympics in Atlanta. I'm a stagehand. We're a different kind of breed. We don't fit in anywhere. So we had, when that bomb went off, we had people all over that scaffolding that was over where that bench was. We had follow spot operators and all kinds. We're all dressed in black. So after this bomb goes off, the FBI comes around and they tell the crew that are working there, it says, now, we got a bunch of snipers out here now. And he says, so we want to know who's supposed to be here and who's not supposed to be here. And so he says, what we want you to do, he says, we want you to put a little piece of white tape on your black T-shirt somewhere, so we'll know that you're actually part of the actual crew. You didn't climb up here. So we had this really big girl we called Little Debbie. No problem. She took white camera tape and tore it up in little strips and wrote, "Don't shoot." Don't shoot. I put it right on her heart, right on her chest. Because, they're telling you, we're looking at you through loaded, through rifle scopes with loaded rifles, And one little slip, you're gone, dude. She said, don't shoot. Whatever you do, don't shoot. You'd freak out if you knew that. I worked the Paralympics, and I was there when they did the flag ceremony. I think Gore was there or something. So we're there taking it out at 4 o'clock in the morning when the snipers came out. All these Smokies come out with their rifle cases. So, I think, they're up there looking at my girl's freaking tits, through a fucking rifle scope. Yay. Hey, that makes you feel good. They're checking out the crowd, But they built the new stadium, and they actually built whole separate, I think they probably put in whole separate security. You don't see them, you know what I mean? I think they got their own little rooms, their own little sniper rooms, hidden up in all those places. And their own elevators and their own, their own little corridors and escape stairs and whatnot. And they'd jump out at you. Exciting. Really exciting. Yeah, but I turned around and I said there were 4 of them, and they were all carrying rifle cases. 4 o'clock in the morning. Let's see what's going on there. So you don't believe it, but that's just all junk, and it's coming out. I'm not really killing myself here. I'm not. And all of this irregularity and stuff, I'll be able to trim this now when I relieve all of this impaction. This was so tight here in the corner that it hurt. But it's been relieved a lot now. I've taken out layer after layer after layer. And it used to be I'd get in there like that and I would peel the string all the way around. And you would feel better immediately when it popped out. I'm telling you that this is a source of serious unease in your life. Just go ahead and believe it. Don't take my word for it, just believe it. Just get to work. Get to work on this. If you see any of this as your problem, then you've got something better to worry about than, foreign policy. Just sit around worrying about, worry about what you're up to. I think about all the stuff I worried about in my life, and I'm sitting on this kind of a problem. Silly business. Stick to your knitting kind of a deal. This is a complete failure on my part to understand that you have to do nail maintenance every day. There are things, you think about it now, you'll start to rack through your mind as go, What else was I supposed to be doing every day that I haven't been doing? And you might find out other things that, a well-ordered life, you would get up in the morning and you do certain things and you do certain things in a certain order, and you make time management. You make time to do the things you need to do every day, and especially health and welfare things like maintenance, like body maintenance. Women are good about doing this, when they're sitting around. And you need to get better at it. If you're a guy, and you think, yeah, well, that's me, I'm out there wiping. I let the white glue, dry on my hands, and then I just peel it on. I've had girls sit and hold hands, and all of a sudden they'll get this strange look on their face, and they'll drop, they'll look, they'll focus. You see their eyes focus. They go, and they're looking at your hands and going, "What the? God, look at that!" But they're not going to say it. You know what I mean? Dude, because they know guys are schnooks and slobs. They make a lot of allowances. We expect them to be perfect, and we come in looking like this. And I say, "Hey, well, hold hands." I'm, "No, yeah, okay, whatever." You're kind of a wreck, dude, but, I love you anyway. We're so lucky. I mean, that women would even have anything to do with it. I've got a sister that won't. She's a hard case, let me tell you. A lot of this, people are now replowing the ground that we plowed in the 60s, and I'm completely disinterested. If I had to do over again, I wouldn't. I wouldn't plow that ground to begin with. I would go on and do other things. See how that has a chance now of squaring up over here and squaring up over here. But you've got to relieve all this dead skin. And this is just more and more and more. You don't know until you get down there where it's supposed to be and where it ends. There we go. And there you go. See? And if you're not careful, you do too much. And it will be a little painful. Okay, that just popped, didn't it? Popped off. Did that pop off? Trauma. Self-traumatized. I'm not sure I can blame this on anybody but me. At any rate, it's generally better to go ahead and blame it on yourself anyway. It's a device, in a way, taking personal responsibility. People will stand there and argue about it. That was the other thing in LifeSpring. So they come in, we're all sitting in there, and we've all paid. We all paid like $400 to sit here in this thing. And they'll go, okay, we're going to start. We're going to go over the ground rules. And say, okay, if you aren't here at 8 o'clock, we close the doors, we lock them, you can't come in. If you miss it, you miss it. They had a bunch of stuff like that. Just perfectly ordinary stuff. So now we had to argue about it for a day and a half. People go, well, what if I have a flat tire? So it doesn't matter. Well, what if I can't? I go to the bathroom. And what if I go to the bathroom? I need to go to the bathroom except at the lunch, or whatever. Bathroom break, you're just out. Bye. Oh, God, man. And then you sit there, and what they're doing is they're saying, this is how you work. This is how you work in the world. This is how you set yourself up. This is how you screw it all up. I heard it, we hear it all. We heard it all, and then they asked people to tell their life stories, and only one I remember was this girl and it was long, it's kind of a cut to the chase, but she spent a long time explaining all her relationships. She did the whole explainer. She'd been married 3 times and whatnot. My dad was married 3 times. So, and she just, this one didn't work out, and that one didn't work. They were alcoholics and this and that. They got all through with it. And then the guy looks at me and goes, okay, well, thanks, Evelyn. He says, well, thank you for sharing. Everybody, let's thank Evelyn for sharing. Everybody claps, and he says, now, Evelyn, he says, I only have one question for you. He said, who was it that picked those 3 alcoholics out of the crowd and married them? Evelyn didn't have an answer. She looked like she'd been hit in the face with a brick. It's like she had convinced herself that she had absolutely nothing to do with it. It was all their fault. Isn't that nice? The stories you can tell yourself about 3 different people that you stood up and married. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's when I started to get interested, I said, these people know something. What could it be? And I'm such a skeptic. We got right to the end of it, and this trainer actually came back to me, and he said, okay, he says, you've been sitting back here for, 3 or 4 days? He said, here's $400. He says, if you don't want to get anything out of it, that's fine. And he just walked away. And I threw it up in the air at that point. And I just jumped right in to the dyads, the small groups, the whatever. And I said, no, whatever it is that we got here, I paid and I want to get it, whatever it is. But mostly it was, you'll get a lot more done in your life if you take responsibility for what your life looks like day to day. Instead of blaming everybody else, like mom or dad, no matter what they did. Even if it's just a device. And people would say that, and they'd say, well, what if I get cancer? And they'd say, well, I guess you wanted to get cancer. This sounds so cold, you know what I mean? But it's like, there's no back door, like the Apple phone. There's no trap door in the back that you can get out. But that's because you don't want the trap door. You just refuse to accept it. You just go ahead and do it. Take responsibility for whatever it is, whatever it looks like, however painful it is. You say, well, and I've done it over and over, and I say, like I trace around trying to do something, and I get mad at the people because, they didn't have it in stock. I decided to drive across the town and get something, and I could have called. And then I'll stand there and get mad at them. And then later I'll go, why did I work so hard screwing this up? Why didn't I just call? Why am I standing here feeling bad about this guy who doesn't have staples, in stock when I drove all the way over here to get staples? I'm going to blame him. I'll go vent my spleen or whatever. It's worked for me over and over and over again. You won't get it right, all the time. You're still carrying the same stuff, and you're not gonna be 100%. People will think you're on drugs. Say, what happened to you? As a matter of fact, I had gotten out of the entertainment industry for the first time. It's not easy necessarily. And I said, one of the things, that's what they told me. They absolutely wrecked this girl. She said her story was that she wanted to be a writer, right? And they said to her, well, she's like 35 years old. She went to college on a creative writing scholarship, and she wasn't writing, you know what I mean? So they say, well, I wanted to be a writer and blah, 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 and I have all these reasons why it didn't work and I haven't done it and I want to be a writer. And he said, well, based on, this was the jargon that they used, which is in itself was interesting. He said, based on results, you don't want to be a writer. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, what happened there? She almost had a, they make you sign a release on this thing. Some people find this so threatening that they've had people sue them for telling them they're responsible for what their own lives look like. It's a bridge too far for some people. But based on results, they say, you don't want to be a writer or you would have written something by now, don't you think? She didn't want to hear that. That was not good. So when I got that, my part of what I wanted to do is I wanted to do film. And if I hadn't done LifeSpring, I probably would have never done film. It's not easy, and we didn't have film in Atlanta at the time. There wasn't any. We hadn't even done Invasion USA or anything. I never know that. Nothing. Burt Reynolds, he was the very first. We had already had the Smokey and the Bandit movies, but 3 movies in 6 years or something, 4 years. That's not steady working, But I went and I actually managed to work in film, and I probably because I was stage carpenter, and then I worked stage electrics. You could also work convention in Atlanta and fill in with that. I became an opera freak, doing follow spots for the opera. I got really good at it. I liked follow spots, and then I fell in love with opera. Kind of surprised me. See, look at that. That's nail. That's a poorly formed nail. See how rubbery it is? Look at that. See, this is what's going to freak you out, guys. Yeah, I think it. These things. Now all of a sudden we're getting somewhere here. What is that? That's cuticle that is wrapped around and around and around and locked the nail down. And it's still there. Don't freak out. I'm not actually bleeding to death here. I might get cards made, and I don't know how to tell people I'm the best. Dude, you got problems, And I see it, people wear these sandals, and their feet look like they've been doing finishing concrete and they're barefooted. They got so much dead skin on their feet. They're way past the loofah stage. You can deal with it in a kind of ordinary way. When they were doing the Olympics in Atlanta, it wasn't the Olympics, it was a zoo. And they were running so far behind, and they had promised that they were going to rebuild the whole city and make it beautiful beautiful in the sight of God. I remember seeing this guy as probably some Mexican. He was finishing concrete downtown barefoot. Holy Moses. I was like on the bus or something. I said, I can't believe that, because it's a lie. Just take the skin off. But the other thing they did, they went around and they dumped trees everywhere. They put these planters everywhere. They went around and bought all these trees, and they went around and they dumped them out. And then they didn't get around to planting them. So what they did is they wound up planting them dead and then spray painting them green. Beautiful. Yeah, show business. I think they spray painted the grass on the field too. Everything died. It was a hot summer. What they're saying out here is that we're not in global warming. We're in we're starting our second 1,000-year drought. The first one killed off the Chacoan culture, where that Robert Redford did the narration for the ceremonial center down there. People did not actually live there, except for a few people that lived like in dugouts. But that was a big ceremonial center. They still don't know what it was about. But it was probably not cannibalism and stuff like that. But they didn't find food, they didn't find granaries, they didn't find corn, they didn't find, anything there. There's buildings. No artifacts really to speak of, I don't think at all. A few beads, shell beads, and that they traded, which were from other places, northern Mexico and whatnot. And these really incredible buildings and all of these. Now you can see the roads from the satellite photographs, just like in the Middle East where they figure out where the caravans went. Now by taking satellite photographs, you can see the tracks in the desert, which you cannot see at ground level. And they've got a network of roads up there in, wherever it is, Grants, New Mexico, Thoreau, around there. It was really incredible. I went there. I had driven back and forth 2 or 3 times, and I stopped to take a picture of these really incredible cliffs along the side of. They were over there. It was like the old road off the interstate, and then behind it was this line of cliffs. And I stopped and took a photograph, and when I turned around, there was a signboard there that said Chaco Canyon. And I said, oh, wow, okay, well, I'll go, whatever. And I went on, I was dragging a U-Haul trailer, and I went around there to a trading post. And the guy said, it's too late in the day, dude, I'll never make it down there. And, I said, and he said, and you do not want to drag a trailer down there either. That was beyond stupid. And he said, but if you want to, he said, you can dump your trailer here and drive down there. It's like 65 miles. And I said, okay. I went, where was that? I think Grants or somewhere. I rented a room. It's 20 miles away. And I got up in the morning, I went back, I dropped my trailer in his parking lot, and I took off. And I went down there. And so you go down this subnormal road, and it's like almost an abandoned state road, and it's an asphalt road, 2-lane. And it's Indian reservation. So you get down there, you get 45 miles down there, you get 30 miles down there or something. And then there's a tee-off at a juvenile detention center of all things. And you take the side road, and you drive another 25 miles or something. And then you come to a dirt road. And the last, it's just like it's 35 miles. I always go into things from the back door, kind of. And everybody else comes into it from the other side. There's another road in from the north or something. I get turned around down there. But it's vast, people don't realize that you could have the world's largest open pit mine there and be standing there and not see it. You have no idea how vast the West is. But so I got down there, and there's this dirt road. It's like 35 miles, dirt road. And that's the road to Chaco Canyon. You drive 35 miles down a dirt road in middle of nowhere, and then you come to these incredible buildings that are out there with the, and now they're just the walls and stuff. But back in the day, they had roofs on them. They were timbered and they were covered over, and you couldn't just stand there and look down into the kibas like you can now. And it's really stunning. And I said, it's all because I just stopped to take that picture, or I would have just missed it. I had driven by that. I was on my third trip, and I had never seen that sign. I was watching out for trucks. It's like a Cumberland Gap, you know. There's a gap that the railroad goes through there, the road goes through there, the old road, the old Route 66 goes through there. That's the road that was on the sign. I said, I'm going to go over there to Route 66. I nearly got blown off the side of the road by trucks just hurtling through. And I said, I'm going to go over there on that other road, and it was the old Route 66. And I went over there to take another picture where I wouldn't get run over. I could get out of the car. See this? This is going to pick out too. You see that? On a good day, this will come out better than what I'm doing here. Picking at this backwards it's kind of awkward. If I had my, I didn't bring my forceps. I have a little tiny bird beak forceps, locking forceps. And and ordinarily I would get a hold of that. You know, if I could pick up a nice corner, I would do that. And then just peel it out. And you can grab that and take that whole thing out instead of just picking at yourself endlessly. I'm not doing the efficient thing. But like I said, every bit of this, look at that. See, you don't know it. You're going to believe me now in a minute, huh? And some people, I'm getting blowback from people that don't think I know what I'm talking about. But pretty soon they're going to tell me I'm doing damage and stuff, you know what I mean? Yeah, I know all about damage. I've been carrying damage for a long time. See that? That's another layer. That's just another crescent of dead skin that wants to come out. I know I'm starting to sound like Mr. Rogers. Oh, Jesus. Look at that. So there you go. The guard just gave me another fishy look. What is it? What is that guy doing? It's littering. I'm littering. I might have to go in the bathroom and get tissues or something and dampen them and try to clean up. I'm an Army brat. I don't leave a mess anywhere. I polish, it's like Andy Griffith. I polish the chrome on the faucet in the bathroom at the casino. Don't catch myself. I catch myself standing there wiping the whole thing down. It would be a better country if everybody did that. It would be a cleaner country anyway. I don't throw my trash on the ground. My dad wasn't an environmentalist. We didn't in the 50s. Nobody knew what that was, I don't think. But he said, don't ever throw anything out of a car that a bird can't eat. And he meant an apple core. That was it. You didn't throw anything else out on the ground. I've had people throw their whole rib plate, styrofoam, everything right out in front of me on Peachtree Street. And deliberately, too. Just throw it right in your face. No respect for the country, among other things. Sometimes I think it's a deliberately showing that don't share the standard. Life is really precious, and it should take inordinate care. I'm not getting such a big rush. And start taking care of your nails every day. That would be a good thing to do. Instead of reading the Wall Street Journal or whatever it is you think is more important. Obviously, I've done a lot of substitution in my life. I could have been doing this. Instead of saving it all, I've always been a deadline operator, you know. Let it all go to the last, and then clean 65 years worth off. One go. Right. It's not the best, probably. Yeah. He's going to say something next time he comes by. Might all we'll go ahead and wind it out. What are you doing? I'm lucky I'm in Clark County because people do such bizarre things here that I am really not on front and center on. There's some places that aren't in as bad a shape. They would have already called a SWAT team to me. But here I'm just another wino, that's taking over the reference department. Eating lunch. Sometimes you come in here, it smells like chicken wings. You come in off the street and eat. Oop. It's auto ranging. We don't want that. Getting the idea? Okay. Well, I'm not going to get this upload. I'm pretty sure. Was it 2 hours? I'm picking it up. I'm telling you, this will turn into a career. But it's got to go. To restore my physical equilibrium. And I haven't even started on these. Look at that, see? And that's all impaction. That'll all, you don't know what it is. You don't know what it is. You don't know what it is. Ooh, I did it too long. I did a bad one there. I'd be surprised if that didn't bleed. I stuck myself pretty good. Well, once again, if I had my forceps, I would get right there and pick that up and grab it and just pull it and stuff. I'm doing a lot more damage than I normally would, but it doesn't matter. Kind of, I could pull it out, some of this stuff, but what I want you to see is I want you to see that that's actually dead. I want you to get it, and you see this, and you start to see that this is just all flubber. People don't think I know what I'm doing, I'm pretty sure. And they'll refer me to the doctors and stuff on the internet. It's coming, you know what I mean? Everybody will have their opinion in the feed. That guy's tearing up his hands and he's I already tore up my hands, dude. Thanks. I'm just now starting to get wise to what's actually going on. That's a little. See? Come on now. It's not good because unless it's luck, see, oh God help us. See that now? That's all dead skin, guys. And now you'll see how that nail is floated out over. See that void? It was the reason that the nail wants to go down there, straight down, not wing out like that. That's why it's all bogus. It's what you're not seeing. Stop. Ooh, that was pretty fragrant. It's like MD-40 fingers. Smells like wine. Smelling like wine in here. I don't have to dig that out because it can just sit there because you've seen it, right? You see what that is? I know you don't think I know what I'm talking about, but I'm telling you that wing out there is not supposed to be there. That's not. Then you see how it's cutting into the cuticle. That's a source of disease, unease. This right here is cutting like a knife into the cuticle. And if I pull this out, it's going to want to bleed. But it could just pop out too, you know. You see what a big honking. It didn't look like much when it comes out, but it's a huge amount of stuff. Like I said, and see that's an imperfection in the nail right there. Ugh. Come on now, cooperate. So when I dig that out, then I'll be able to get the knife under there, and I'll pare it up. Yeah, and now you can see the two layers, right? If I can go ahead and do that without getting too gruesome. Come on, stop auto-ranging. Yeah, I'm giving the camera too many different. At home, I have a controlled situation. I have a clamp. I have a surface underneath it. It'll still jump back and forth, but a second. This is jumping back and forth between like 3 and 4 different places. But now you see that. You don't. Oh. This is where I wish I had my forceps. Would make that easier. So, and it's okay. Come on. What are you doing? And it's always okay to leave some for tomorrow. There you got no chance of doing it all. So when you get tired, you know, and it's tedious, buddy, let me tell you. It can be very tedious. It's like 2 years. This is the second Thanksgiving. This will be the third Thanksgiving. I started the first year because I canceled a dental appointment. And I said, okay, I'm not going to have to go in with butchered hands and have everybody stare at it. So I have been doing this, essentially the same thing for 2 years, and all that's happened is there's considerably less dead skin on my hands, but you see how much there still is. And this is still buried. It wants to be down here. And that nail wants to be cylindrical. It's not flat. And it's flat like that because not only is the skin built up underneath and pushed it like that, and the nail material comes out like that, and like floor wax, and comes out, but then this cuticle material wraps over and over and over and over, and it locks that nail down, and it flattens it out like that. It's not supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be cylindrical. It's not supposed to be this, like this over here and a little bit round. Look at that. And then it just drops off like that. And this is a sign. It's infinitely variable because you've got 10 fingers and you've bitten them all differently, right? So it's not just one story. It's 10 stories in the Naked City. What's that guy's name? I used to see him on The Untouchables, and then I worked with him as a director. When I was a kid, I was like 8 years old, and I remember seeing this guy's name. It's his name. His brother worked in the business too. He's the producer. What's that guy's name? It's weird though because I remember seeing doing many episodes of The Untouchables. He must have been his first gig. He must have been a kid. Because when I worked with him, one of the neat things about working in episodic television is you work with all the directors. I didn't know that when I started. A new one comes in every week. It's the DP. It's the DP that sets the look of the show in episodic television, not the director. They swap out the director because they keep shooting. So you got a director this week that's in town, and he is reading scripts and doing run-throughs and doing rehearsals with the cast that is going to be shooting the show next week while this week's show is being shot. So what that means is there's a constant stream of DGA directors that Transpo is going to the airport to pick up. So I worked with Larry Hagman and Leo Penn and this guy, I can't remember his name. But it was so weird because I'm standing there, working with this guy, and I can remember being 8 years old in the middle of the night and da-da-da-da. What was that? The Untouchables. They had really strong music. They had, I forget who that guy was that did the narration, but he was like a narrator for radio, and he did, who was that guy? Now you know the rest of the story, but he had a strong voice. He was a radio guy, announcer guy. I can see that guy standing there. But that was part and parcel of LifeSpring. If I had not done LifeSpring, I would have never done movies. And doing movies is, you want to do it when you're young, but it's pretty neat, out there. I worked on Friday the 13th, part 6, and I did like 5 or 6 years on Heat of the Night. Carl Weathers, a nice guy. And I think Stacy Keach covered for Carol O'Connor when he went in the hospital to have his quadruple bypass. Yeah, Carol O'Connor was one of those guys that smoked cigarettes like a stack. I did too for 35 years. Yeah, you think you can't quit smoking cigarettes? You go in the hospital for a quadruple bypass. When Carol O'Connor came back from the hospital, he did not want to see a cigarette anywhere. You were not welcome to smoke on his cell. He quit smoking in a week after smoking for 50 years. He said, you don't want to do this anymore. He took the cure. It didn't take, didn't take as much as you think it does. All you have to do is get your scared witless that you're going to die. And for real, not might die someday, get lung cancer someday. No, you're going in the hospital right now, dude, because you clogged up everything. And look at this. How much of mine, how much clogged up am I? Right here. I'm not making much progress on that. I don't have the right tools. But you can see how this is scaling back. And that's still not, you don't have to believe me. You do not have to believe me. This is why I didn't look at the internet. I knew they would tell me not to believe the evidence in my own eyes. They had another explanation. And I did not look on the internet for at least a year, and it was long enough where I knew what I was looking at was completely bogus. All of that nail damage, I looked at those pictures and I went, holy moly, look at that. This stuff's just erupting right out through the skin. Big pockets of, dead cell material that's been bottled up. You see these tiny little toenails in the middle of this big masses of flesh on people, and they're so happy. They got their sandals on and everything. And they got them little tiny toenails that's all painted up. And you go, babe, you don't know what you got there. Oh yeah, I got some nice nails. That's what I got. Yeah, you need to get to work. Look at that. Yeah, tell me that too. It's not right. Okay, and there's more coming right there. And tomorrow it'll be another layer of dead. Tomorrow it'll be the next layer, and the next layer peeling, drying out and peeling. Until you take the top layer off, the next layer is not going to start to dry out. It's going to get nourished from underneath somehow. It's going to look pink and it'll almost look alive, but after a while you'll know better. So you see what that is right now. That's all looking like, good skin, living skin or whatever. It'll look dead tomorrow. It'll be peeling. The next layer will be peeling, and the next. And I'm telling you that every bit of this stuff in front of that nail bed, I'm be willing to bet you that every bit of it is dead flubber. Yep. I had to come down here to get the good internet connection. I'm having a hard time getting my videos to upload. That's why everything's been kind of screwy. I made the mistake of skipping computers. I said it was too aggravating. I said, call me when they get this stuff intuitive. So I really missed the boat. Missed a lot of this stuff I should have been doing a long time ago. Come on now. You'll be amazed at how you can just peel this off without doing any damage, because it's not real. It's dead skin. It's like finally pop out. You'll be amazed, it'll finally just pop out. A whole big honking piece. I'm telling you, this is a burden. All of this dead skin on your hands is not supposed to be there, and it's a burden. And if you can start to see what's going on, you'd owe it to yourself to start to try to do something about it. And that could include going to somebody who, what they call it, the dermatologist, and say, look at these pictures and look what that guy did. Oh, well, can you tell me what's going on with that? He may say, well, you just need to bathe in oven cleaner. Who knows? It'll take all that right on. I decided to pass on that option. And so, see, how did all that dead skin just get laminated up against the nail? Layer after layer after layer. Every time you bit through the cuticle, it dies. But it doesn't go anywhere. It just sits there, and a new cuticle forms underneath. It's like kombucha mushrooms or something. Just push it up. Push it up, push it up, push it up. Up, 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 up. I had so much dead material on my hands that I could not see any progress for a long time. Because just like I said, that when I peel that out, I'd take a big strip out, and it would be a 1/16 of an inch high. Tomorrow, that would just roll right back down on the nail and glue itself right back down. People do not realize how serious this is. This is serious business here. So, I don't think I'd want to go for the radical treatment option. You wind up like Joan Rivers, dead in the chair somewhere. I'd like to get a little more. I'd like to have a little bit of good time, before I die. And if you're not 70 years old and you got damage like this, I'd advise you to get cracking. Because like I say, I think this is a serious source of disease, subliminal discomfort, There's no telling how many jobs you've lost because you unloaded on the boss because you got all this crap on your hand.